Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute pleasure and privilege to be joined by the fabulous Liz Brunner. Liz, welcome.
Oh, Kim, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be able to be connected with you in this way.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited. And I know from our previous conversations, Liz, we can get stuck in quite quick. So before we do, let me just share a little bit more about you with our audience. So Liz is an award-winning communicator, keynote speaker, and executive coach dedicated to helping people lead with authenticity, presence, and purpose. As CEO of Brunner Communications and a former Emmy Award-winning ABC TV news anchor, Liz has spent over 35 years mastering the art of powerful storytelling. She's the best-selling author of Dare to Own You and host of the award-winning podcast Live Your Best Life. Through her coaching and Brunner Academy speaking training, Liz empowers leaders to step into their full potential. And I'm so excited to bring that journey to life. I don't even know where to start, Liz. So could you start for us? Could you bring your journey to life for us?
Well, it is kind of a long story because I consider myself in my fourth career chapter, Liz 4.0, and I'll see if I can't make it as quick and short as possible. But I started out as a high school music teacher, singing semi-professionally around the world. And after a couple of years, I felt like there was something more I was supposed to do. I had absolutely no clue what that was, Kim. Yeah. But fast forward, I was reading books about informational interviews, and I thought, I wonder if I could do something in television. And I blindly and bravely called up 2 television stations in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. And I was quite successful at retail while this was all going on because, you have to pay the bills. Long story short, again, I got a position that was created for me at the CBS affiliate. And I was there for 3 years. That took me to another television station in Tampa, Florida. I was there for 5 years. And then I had a 20-year career at ABC in Boston. All told, 28 years of television. But then again, I had this visceral gut level feeling the last couple of years when I was at ABC, there's something more I'm supposed to do. Whereas the first time when I was leaving television, I had absolutely no clue. This time around, I just knew that I had skills and expertise that I had honed over all these years. I also believed that I had gifts and talents that I'd been blessed with. And I wanted to be able to use all of this to be able to help other people and be of service in some way. And so I decided to bravely launch my business nearly 12 years ago. October will be 12 years. So here we are in the month of October of 2025. And my business is 12 years old. Now, Kim, keep in mind, I never, ever wanted to own my own business. I did not think I was smart enough to own my own business. That's a limiting belief, by the way. And yet here I am. And I'm so grateful because I have an opportunity now to help so many people, whether I'm speaking on a stage or whether I am behind the scenes as an executive communications coach or with my book, Dare to Own You, as an author. I feel like my vision is to help people motivate them, inspire them to live their best life, whatever that means for them. And now I'm really helping people develop what I call the IT factor, IT, intentional transformation. And through all of these years of experience of work in my fourth chapter, I've developed a framework that helps people align their physical, mental, and relational self so that they have more confidence, more authenticity, more presence. And all of that leads to more influence so they can take themselves to the next level. So that's a very condensed version of everything that I'm doing right now.
Oh my goodness, there's so many questions, Liz. I love that intentional transformation because for me, that's one of the biggies is my big learning has been to be more intentional rather than just go with the flow. And I also love it through your story that you trusted your intuition, because I think that's something that we have, we've got scared of trusting, haven't we? We kind of overthink all the reasons why our intuition should be wrong. And yet if life's taught me anything, it's that whenever I don't trust it, it goes wrong.
That's when it goes wrong, right?
I really should have trusted it. I had a sense. And I also love that you've chosen throughout your story, throughout your career, to be bold and brave. And I think that's so inspiring because there's so many moments where you've already talked about that limiting belief. There's so many moments where our limiting belief shuts doors that actually we could really do with being open, and that how we can then take our, as you're doing so eloquently, our lived experience, our learned experience, and utilize that to help others who might be about to go through a similar lived experience, so that they don't have to have such lows as we had, but they can still enjoy such highs. Would that be fair?
Yes, it would be absolutely fair. There's so many points that you've just touched on. The first one that I want to come back to is that limiting belief. What are limiting beliefs? Well, they're the stories we tell ourselves that we come to believe as fact, which in reality have zero truth to them. I'm not enough, or I can't do that because I've never done that before. Well, guess what? No knowledge is ever wasted. That is a quote from my grandmother, Dr. Dorothy Dunning-Chaco. No knowledge is ever wasted. And so every experience we have, good, bad, there are lessons to be learned and skills that we can carry forward. And we have to learn to trust that we know more than we think we know. That's the hard part. Going back to your intuition and your gut, we know more than we think we know. No knowledge is ever wasted. And is it scary to make any kind of a big change like that? Absolutely, yes. Do you think I was, not scared? I was petrified every single time. But I just trusted something inside of me that said, you can do this. You're going to learn how to do this, and you'll figure it out. I remember when I was getting ready to leave television, and I again had that visceral feeling like, oh, there's something more I'm supposed to do. And I didn't know what it was, but I just knew I had this calling, this purpose, and these skills. And I remember saying to one of the mentors that I was talking to, saying, what does somebody like me do when you think you might want to be doing something else or should be doing something else? And I would get very interesting comments like, well, I see you read the news every night. Trust me, it's more than just reading the news. But one man said to me, Liz, when I said, I'm scared, I don't think I'm smart enough to do this, to launch a business. I don't really want to launch a business. And he said, Liz, you're smart. You'll figure it out. Wow. I mean, somebody putting that belief into me, having confidence in me, made a huge difference. And then another person said to me, another one of my mentors said, Liz, you're well known, you're well respected, you have credibility. I'd been in this news business for 28 years, 20 of them as an Emmy Award-winning anchor at ABC. And he said, you can teach people about so many things. You have all this value, all this credibility. Why would you give it to somebody else? Launch a business. And if in 6 months or 9 months you don't like it, you don't have any clients, you can always go do something else. Kim, a kaleidoscope went click. And I made the decision in that moment in his office, I'm going to launch a business. And I did. 6 weeks later, I left television.
I mean, your grandmother's quote is amazing. No knowledge is ever wasted. It's so true.
Yes.
Because, we learn in everything. I was saying just this to my little girl this morning, as we were on the school run. I said, the failure is never, because she was worried about a test. And I was like, you can't ever fail, darling, because you'll learn. So either you'll learn the answer, or you'll learn what the answer is, so you'll know the answer next time. So as long as we keep trying, as long as we keep getting up, then actually no experience is ever worthless, because to your point, they teach us something.
You're speaking my language, because I am such a firm believer that failure is really not failure. It's only failure if you don't learn the lesson. That's number one. And number two, I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have this approach to my life of just because I've never done something doesn't mean I can't. I just have to try. Am I going to be perfect at everything? No, nobody is. But at least I tried, and I learned, and I grew. And that's how I built my business. I mean, I surrounded myself with good people and who helped me. And I'm still surrounding myself. I'm still learning. I'm still pivoting. And you have to do that. As you know, as an entrepreneur, you have to continually pivot. You have to continually adjust. You have to continually evolve intentionally.
So aligned. It reminds me, and I live my life in my business this way. My nan gave me my nan and my granddad gave me two pieces of advice which I thought were really summed up life. So my nan said, make every day a school day. So in every day, learn something. And my granddad said, live each day as if it's your last and one day you'll be right. I think what he meant by that was never put off, never doubt. As the Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now. And so in those moments when you're scared, it's taking the step, isn't it? Well, I'm scared about what I don't know, but when I take the step, I'm going to know what I don't know, and therefore that will be today's lesson.
Yes, yes. And the other thing too, going back to the failure piece, and look, life is full of challenges. Life is full of obstacles and ups and downs, and we're all going to experience them no matter what life we're living, what role we play, whether personally or professionally. And the other quote, speaking of quotes, this one's from my mother, who actually got it from her mother, my grandmother, which is that the goal of living is to be able to absorb all of the pain of life and lose none of the joy. Now, that's not always easy to do, but if we can find that kernel of joy, even just for a moment, we can get to the next step, and then we can get to the next one, and then we can get to the next one. No matter how much we are afraid to take those next steps, we can do it.
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful quote. Because I think it's right, isn't it? I say to Scarlett all the time, everything in life is a lesson, a blessing, or both. So when you don't feel blessed, look for the lesson, and the blessing's right in there. You've just got to learn the lesson.
I love that. A blessing or a lesson or both. I'm going to steal that, Kim. I love it.
It's a gift. It's a gift. Please do take it, because I think it is. It's how we reframe it, and I love that whole looking for the joy, because there is always some joy. It might not be huge joy, but there's always a little glimmer. There's always a something. One of the things that Scarlett and I sometimes do when things are really bad and really tough is we go and dance around the kitchen. It's really hard to continue to be pulled down to your lowest when you're dancing around the kitchen like a lunatic.
I love it. I love it.
So we manufacture joy if we can't find it for a moment, just to, as you so eloquently put, to find the strength to get over the next hurdle, to get over the next challenge where it's coming. And I think, for me, and I'd love your thoughts on this, I always, I start every day with a question to myself of what today is going to fill my cup with joy, and make it an intentional thing to look out for, whether that's taking 5 minutes to read a chapter of a book instead of layering in something else that needs doing, that probably doesn't need doing. But we have almost started to live our lives through random task lists that aren't necessarily intentionally driving us where we want to go. What are your thoughts?
I have many. The first of which is I journal every single day. And I have for, I think, 40 plus years now. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And it's very extemporaneous. I never know what's going to come out. But I always find that through that process, for me, it's very cathartic. And messages come to me of what this day should be. And I read from six different sort of books. And some of them are spiritual, some of them are religious, some of them are just quote books. But what I find absolutely amazing sometimes, Kim, is there will be a message or a theme through these 6 or even 3 or 4 of them that tells me, oh, this is the message for me today. And I find it extraordinary when that happens, whether it's joy or whether it's trust or whether it's be still or whether it's let go. I mean, the messages do come through for me. Now, let's move to the sort of a little deeper level. I talked about this a little bit earlier. The IT factor, intentional transformation, which is aligning your physical, mental, and relational self. Now, the physical self, as a communications expert, is, yes, it's body language. What are you sending out there? Because we're always emitting energy. We're always receiving messages. We're always sending out messages through our body language. Okay, put that aside for a moment. The second piece of the physical is taking care of this vessel that we have been blessed with, your body. And what movement are you doing? Whether it's dancing in the kitchen, or you're just stretching, or you're just breathing, that movement is powerful. It's kinetic energy also. And that movement then connects to your mind. The mindset is that second pillar of the framework. What are you telling yourself? What stories are you telling yourself? There's something like 50,000 thoughts that run through our day, through our brain every single day. And 95% of them are on repeat. Is that a positive message or is that a negative message? So that mindset is crucial. And then when you align the body and the mind, let's go to the next step, which is the third pillar, the relational self. And the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you will have with other people and the world around you. Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? Are you living your core values? Because then all of that ripples out to your authenticity, to your confidence, to your presence, and ultimately to your influence. So all three of those, this framework is so important to living your best life and being who you were meant to be, not somebody else, but who you are meant to be.
Oh, I love that. It's so true, isn't it? We have to find that alignment, and we often are telling ourselves the wrong thing. You know, I see so many people that set their goals in the negative, what they don't want. I don't want to get old. I don't want to get fat. I don't want to do this. It's like, what do you want?
Guess what? That's what's happening.
Anyway, like, we kind of don't have a choice around those things. But it's like, what do you want? What is it that you are hoping for? And when we're telling ourselves something, do I want to think that about myself? Is that really how I want to feel?
Is that truth, or is that something we've manufactured in our head?
So it's so true, because the voice in our head is so very plausible, and yet it very often isn't telling us the truth. It's telling us an old scripted story that if we don't go back and look at it and be intentional with it, I liken it to the fact that as I understand, we create these scripts in our head at the age of 7, and we enforce them at the age of 14, and we embed them at the age of 21. And therefore they become the unseen operating software of our brain if we don't go back and look at it. And I'm looking slightly down at my phone now, thinking every time a software update comes up on my phone, I'm like everybody else, you immediately leap to it, don't you? must update and fix those bugs. And yet, I'm 52 this year, so my software would have been 31 years out of date if I'd not gone back and looked at it. And so we do, don't we? We have to go back and do that work. So how do people start that work?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I believe the first place to start is that physical. And it is with that body. It is with movement of some kind. Look, I like to go to the gym 6 or 7 days a week. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. But what I am saying is find a way to move, because movement is energy. Movement is energy, and then what it is you're putting out there. So you need to start with that physical, which then leads to the mind. And what people have a hard time understanding, Kim, is that while we may be conditioned to believe one thing, those habits ingrained from age 7 to age 14 to age 21, guess what? They can be changed. It's called neuroplasticity. We can rewire our brains at any age. But how do you do that? You have to do the inner work. You have to be willing to look at those patterns, look at those behaviors that are not serving you well, and what can you do intentionally to change? And let's face it, the older we get, the harder it is to change. We don't like to be uncomfortable. We just simply don't like to be uncomfortable, but that's when growth happens, is when that discomfort, when we get to the edge of that discomfort. Even when I'm working with some of my clients on their communication skills and presentation skills and their storytelling and really learning about themselves, I stretch them. This is our comfort zone. This is like the rubber band around our hands. Oh, I'm not going to go anywhere outside of this rubber band. Guess what I do? I stretch people. Now, you're not going to live out here 24/7, but if this was your comfort zone and I can stretch you a little bit further, and this becomes your comfort zone, guess what? You've grown, you've expanded, you've evolved. And, start with that physical, because then that aligns with it connects you with everything else, the mental, the relational. It's all interconnected.
Amazing. I love that, because we do, don't we? We have to get out of our comfort zone and we have to push ourselves. I had a guest the other day who shared a phrase I'd never heard before, but I really liked it. He said it's called post-traumatic growth.
Oh, that's good.
I love that. So I thought it would resonate, so I thought I would share. And it was like you only grow past the trauma, but you have to have felt the pain and have to have understood it and gone through it to be able to grow through it. And sometimes when I look back at the other side, it's never as bad as I thought it was going to be. Even the really bad things have never been as bad as I thought they were going to be when I was on the other side overthinking why I shouldn't make the move.
Overthinking is overrated. I mean, I am so guilty of that. I've been accused of that many times, but that's part of my process. Also, I do think a lot. I think very deeply, and that's just me. But I also believe it's a double-edged sword. While that can be a challenge and sort of hurt me in some respects, being an overthinker, it's also one of my greatest gifts. Because as an overthinker, for lack of a better word, I have been able to, even when I was a journalist, one of the things that I'm most proud of that has carried over into my work today, so many things carry over, but I was a good student of human nature, and I'm still a good student of human nature. And what I mean by that is I was able to very quickly connect with someone that I was going to interview. I had to figure out very quickly in my brain, how am I going to connect with this person? So they're going to be truthful with me. They're going to share their authentic story, even when they didn't think they were going to. And especially if I only had a few minutes with them. Now, as a coach with people, I have to assess very quickly, how am I going to connect with this person? How am I going to help them? How am I going to connect so that I can help them? Because everybody's different. And so that overthinking, it happens very quickly for me. That I'm able to process, but it's also a gift. I really believe it's a gift.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I think any overplayed strength becomes a weakness, and vice versa.
It can be.
So we have to know that the thing, we live in a world of polarity. There's no up without a down. There's no left without a right. So there's no positive without its negative also being available to us. But once we understand that, we can be much more intentional with it. So we can catch ourselves in the fact that, okay, we have thought lots, and I think it is so useful. But we find that moment where we catch ourselves in paralysis analysis and go, I think I've thought of everything now. I can, and it's now time to make an intentional choice. And I love that piece about like studying human nature, because we are always communicating, whether we think we are or not.
Yes.
Our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So whilst we believe that we are these rational, logical human beings, the fact is our logic is responding to emotionally whatever we've made of the situation. And so learning through what you do to recognize that, to understand it, and therefore to use it intentionally is a game changer, isn't it?
It is. And what I love is you're touching on a word that I think is so crucial when it comes to intentional transformation. It is about choice. We have a choice every single day in how we respond to everything. It's a choice. We have a choice to move or not move. We have a choice to how we present ourselves. We have a choice to what we think. We do have a choice to what we think. Okay, I'm thinking this, but is this reality? Is this a limiting belief? Is this imposter syndrome? What is this? We have a choice as to how we process that. And we have a choice as to how we relate to other people. Every single day, we have a choice that we can make. Not always easy. It's just not.
Oh, it's so true. It's making me smile, because I say that's my little. I talk to my little girl about choices all the time. I said everything in life is about choice, and so if she's done something that perhaps is naughty, I never say it's naughty. I say that's not a good choice. So we have good choices and we have bad choices that serve us and choices that don't. And she played it back to me the other day. We were going up the stairs and the dog bounced at me, and I went, "Oh, you silly animal!" And she put her hands on her hips and she went, "Mummy, he is not a silly animal. He made a silly choice." And I was like, yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Kids are wonderful because they're sponges and we don't even realize how much they're absorbing, right?
It's so true. But I think they're the parts, aren't they? Like you say, it's not always easy. No. The choice might neither choice might seem particularly appetizing, but we do still have them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how we, it's how we take that control back, isn't it? That's, you know, we've chatted before. I love quotes. Where one of my favorites is, "I'm not a victim of my circumstance. I'm a product of my choices."
Yes.
And I remind myself of that, particularly when I'm feeling a bit victim. It's like, no, I refuse to do that. There's always a choice that I can make in how I feel about this or how I show up about it. So for the people listening and watching, you know, if they're going, this really resonates, I've got something inside of me, to your point, that visceral feeling that there's just something more, that there's something else I could be doing, what advice can you give them of what to do next?
The first thing I believe is to not ignore that whisper, which sometimes becomes a roar. See if you can't figure out where it's coming from, why it might be there. Are you asking yourself questions like, not necessarily what do I want to do every single day, but how do I want to feel every single day? Am I thriving in this environment, whether it's personal or professional, or am I just surviving? And can I, if anything, do anything about it in this moment of time? Or do I need to continue to sort of process a little bit more? Can I reach out, and whether it's a book or a podcast or, you know, whatever the case may be, can I gather more information so that I can continue to be willing to move the dial and do your best not to be afraid of whatever that little whisper is? Because it can be scary. Like, I can't do that. I've got responsibilities. I'm already overwhelmed. I can't make any changes. Everything's going to fall apart if I do. Step back, be still, and see if you can't listen to what your intuition is. And sometimes intuition and fear are really hard to decipher between the two. Yeah. But intuition keeps knocking. Fear, there are real fears. Like, I'm not going to stand in front of a car. I'm going to get hit. Okay. But there's, decipher if you can, is this intuition or is this fear? And that's a very difficult thing to do. But that would be the first place I would start. The other thing that I love to say is I recreated myself. I didn't reinvent myself. I recreated myself. And to me, there's a difference. Recreation is taking all of those experiences, all of those skills, and leading you into something else. Whereas reinvention, you're doing something completely new. When people hear my story of how I was a high school music teacher singing semi-professionally, then I, worked in retail for a little while, then I had this amazing television career, and now I'm a keynote speaker, executive coach. They're like, how does this all connect? See if you can't connect the themes and patterns of your life. For me, as a singer and a teacher, sharing stories through song, using my voice. As a news anchor, reporter, journalist, I was sharing other people's stories using my voice. As a communications coach, I'm helping other people learn how to tell their story using their voice. As a keynote speaker and author, I'm sharing my story using my voice. For me, the themes and patterns have always been storytelling, using my voice, and being a coach or a teacher. Always. So put yourself in the witness position, step back, see if you can figure out what those themes and patterns are. How can you connect those dots? Because it might lead you to something that you never even ever expected. There's a lot there.
It's so true, because I think in our lives, even though they may look like well, how do they link together? I started off as a hairdresser, then spent 30 years in corporate leadership, and then started my own business. But actually, the thing that was important to me in all of them, as you say, yours was always with voice. Mine was always the lesson I learned in hairdressing that's carried me everywhere was that we were taught to listen to what the other person wants to achieve, to help them to achieve it, and to have them leave you feeling like a better version of themselves. Yes. And that's been true of when I was leading teams. That's been true of when I've been coaching people. That's true when I interview people. It's like, listen to and what they want, try and help them to achieve it, and hopefully have them leave feeling like it was a good use of their time.
Well, and I think what you've touched on, as I was, because I know your story. And so I kind of knew, I was like, I know her being a hairdresser had a huge impact on the rest of her career chapters because of that listening, of that connection that you had with people.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking about a pivot, if you're thinking about a change, if you're thinking about recreation for yourself, can you step back and put yourself into that witness position? Or if you can't do it, then go to a friend or go to a coach or somebody who can help you discover what those themes and patterns are. Because even though there are experiences that you think are just totally unrelated and disconnected, guess what? They probably are connected in some way. You can find a thread. And I love that. That's so much fun.
I love it. Liz, I could literally chat to you all day, but I've just realized where we are on time.
Yes.
That went so quick. But before I let you go, could you please share with our audience how people can get in touch with you and who you help?
Oh, thank you so much for that opportunity. The easiest place is to go to my website, which is lizbrunner.com. That's LIZBRUNNER.com. You will be able to learn about my coaching services. You'll also be able to learn about my keynote speaking opportunities, some of the topics I speak on, and also my book, Dare to Own You, Taking Your Authenticity and Dreams into Your Next Chapter. And it literally, the impetus for that book was the quote from my grandmother of "No knowledge is ever wasted." So my favorite review of the book, if I may share, came from Forbes, who described it as a teaching memoir. They recommended it. They called it a teaching memoir. And that is my favorite description because that's exactly what it is. Yes, it's my sort of career story, but it's also, that's the memoir piece. But the teaching piece is giving people an opportunity to do reflection exercises, to really ask themselves. So if you're thinking about that change, this book might be a good opportunity for people to kind of help point you in that direction and figure out your themes and patterns.
I love that. And that so sums up your mission, because your mission is to teach and to educate and to inform using your voice. And so that sums it up beautifully. And I look forward to reading the book. Liz, it's been such a delight to have you on the show. Thank you so very much for coming on and sharing your stories, your insight, and your education with us.
I am so honored to have had this time with you today, Kim. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I hope I hear from a bunch of people around the world.
I do too. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today's conversation as engaging, insightful, and inspiring as I have. And until next time, take care.